So I did it. I just bought another Tesla, a Model 3 to be exact. So which trim did I go with, and how in the world did I decide which of the 3 Model 3 trims was the right answer for me? Now, before you click away and say, I don't really care what trim level you went with, you should watch the video, because the logic that I applied to my purchase may apply to your situation as well. So my wife has owned her Model 3 for about 4 months now. I seem to drive the thing more than she does, and needless to say, I've really fallen in love with it. Now, we are in need of purchasing another vehicle. I have spent a considerable amount of time researching what my next vehicle is going to be, and I always keep coming back to the Tesla brand. Finally, my wife got sick of me talking about it, and she said, just make a decision, go buy yourself a Tesla. That's what I did. Now, I knew cost was going to be a significant factor here in deciding what my next vehicle was going to be. So knowing the Model 3 is the cheapest of the 4 Tesla models, I knew that's what I was going to be looking at. The question was, which trim level was I going to go with? So in this video, we'll be exploring the different trim levels of the Model 3, and I'll give you my thought process on why I went with the over the... Oh, you'll have to watch to the end of the video to see which trim level I went with. So let's take a few minutes to explore some of the key differences between the 3 Model 3 trims. The Model 3 Performance. They call it Performance for a reason. Top speed is 162 miles per hour. It has a 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds and an estimated range of 315 miles. The nice thing about the Performance model is it includes the Performance Upgrade Package. What's that, you ask? Well, you get the 20-inch Uber turbine wheels with Pirelli Sport tires, performance brakes, it has red calipers, has a carbon fiber rear spoiler, and aluminum alloy pedals on the interior. Now, the Performance model also has something called Track Mode. This allows you to have complete control over how much power each of the dual motors gets. Gives you the ability to completely customize your driving experience. This is a feature that is not available on the long range or rear wheel drive model. The Performance model is the most expensive of the Model 3 trims, and it comes in just under $63,000. The Model 3 Long Range. This is the mid-level of the Model 3 trims, and it just so happens to have the longest range of the 3 trims. Range with the standard 18-inch wheels is 358 miles. It has a top speed of 145 miles per hour and a 0 to 60 of 4.2 seconds. Now, the long range trim looks identical to the Model 3 Performance trim, with the exception of the rear spoiler and wheel covers. From an external view, it looks identical to the Performance model. The Model 3 rear wheel drive trim. This is the lowest level of the Model 3, which happens to have the shortest range as well. Range with the standard 18-inch wheels is 272 miles. It has a top speed of 140 miles per hour and a 0 to 60 of 5.8 seconds. Now, the rear wheel drive comes standard with the 18-inch Aero wheels. Same with the long range model. You can upgrade to the 19-inch Sport tire for an additional $1,500, and that is the same with the long range trim. Under the hood, if you will, the differences are a bit more complex. The rear wheel drive trim has a single motor versus the dual motor on the long range trim. Rear wheel drive is lighter, more nimble in corners, but it is quite a bit slower than the long range. Now, there are a few key differences to call out between the rear wheel drive and the long range trims. The obvious is less range, lower speeds, and the charging speed is also slightly reduced. There are no fog lights on the rear wheel drive. The rear wheel drive trim has a standard sound system versus a premium sound system in the long range and Performance models. There is no ambient internal lighting on the rear wheel drive trim. There is no option to purchase the acceleration boost on the rear wheel drive as there is on the long range trim, and interior floor mats are not included on the rear wheel drive version. Up until early 2022, heated seats and heated steering wheel were also not included on the rear wheel drive, those features are available on the rear wheel drive for no extra cost. The price for the Model 3 rear wheel drive is just under $47,000, a whopping $11,000 cheaper than the long range trim. So which trim did I go with? And what was my thought process around that? I ended up going with the rear wheel drive version. It was significantly cheaper, $11,000 cheaper than the all-wheel drive model. Granted, there are a number of features that are not included on the rear wheel drive that are included as standard on the long range trim, but I can upgrade fog lights or the sound system and buy floor mats for a heck of a lot cheaper than the $11,000 price difference. I was really in need of a commuter vehicle, something to get me to and from work, something to drive me around town. The rear wheel drive trim checks all those boxes. Now, I am going to lose some range compared to the long range trim, but my wife already owns that long range model. So if we need to take a road trip, we can leverage her car. And quite honestly, I have no hesitation taking the rear wheel drive trim on an extended road trip. I mean, if it means I need to charge a few extra times throughout the trip, so be it. To me, that's not a big deal. I've already touched on this. The lack of fog lights, the lower premium sound system, or lack of floor mats isn't a big deal to me. I can upgrade all of those on my own if desired, and I can do it for a heck of a lot cheaper than $11,000. And the biggest driver for me was the price difference. We're talking a brand new electric vehicle for just under $47,000. I mean, that cost isn't that much different than any other new car on the market when you compare size and performance. So that was a huge selling point for me. Now, one other thing I wanted to add about the Performance Model 3 trim. I really like that package. I was so tempted to go with the Model 3 Performance, but during the course of my research, I found that the ride of the Performance trim was very stiff, as you would expect a performance vehicle to be. You feel every bump on the road. And that wasn't really what I was looking for. I was looking for more of a luxury, comfortable ride. In addition, I live in a northern climate that gets a lot of snow. The 20-inch performance tires on that performance trim don't really handle all that well in the snow. Sure, I could go out and buy a set of winter tires, but now there's additional cost with that. It's just not a headache I wanted to deal with at this time. At the end of the day, I really needed a commuter vehicle, something that gives me decent range, a comfortable ride, and those things were more important to me than taking this vehicle out to the track. One of the other key things that factored into my decision here, I could purchase the enhanced Autopilot feature for $6,000, and the vehicle was still going to be $5,000 cheaper than the long range model. So that's what I ended up going with. I purchased enhanced Autopilot. So this gives me all the features that old full self-driving product had, and I can take advantage of those features as part of my daily commute to and from work. That was more important to me than having a performance vehicle that I would never take to the track to race anyway. So I bought it, ordered it on July 23rd. It has an estimated delivery of between December 8th and February 2nd. Can't wait to see how this is going to compare to my wife's long range model. So I wanted to get the order in before there was another price increase. I'm kind of expecting a few more here in the remainder of 2022. Worst case, if I don't like it, I'll drive it for a year or two, sell it, make some money off of it, hopefully based upon the current trend in used car prices for a Tesla, and I can purchase something else at that time. I'll keep everyone posted on the delivery date and the purchase process here, and I'll see you guys in the next video.